Welcome to Close Combat. I'm Sergeant First Class Dan Wiltshire. Coming up, we'll have all the flyweight action in the Army Championship Combatives Tournament. But first, a closer look at modern Army combatives training and how it's being used downrange. The techniques you're about to see are constantly evolving, depending on what works or what doesn't in combat.
We can't go around killing everybody. We could just use these techniques that we learn here to control the person and still feel confident that we have control over the situation without having to resort to deadly force.
We teach boxing, kickboxing, judo, wrestling, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu all in one system in a matter of 4 weeks. Give them drills that they're able to continue training after they leave here and pass that on to their soldiers.
So as they're learning to choke people, do takedowns, whatnot, they're also learning how it plays out with a rifle, or how it plays out with a knife or the pistol on you, or how do you know if the opponent is armed? Because imagine, you get in a fight with somebody, how do you know if they have a pocket knife on them? Well, you don't. So that means you have to fight everybody as if they might.
The situations that I did come in contact, I didn't have the combative training, and I struggled a lot more to control those people because I didn't know the techniques that I've learned in level 1 and 2 so far that really show you how to control somebody. You know, they can do the 2-on-1 drill where you got a 2-man take down a person and, you know, and then eliminate the threat from that person, which is, I think, one of the best techniques that I've learned so far for a combat scenario.
We want them to break through them barriers so they can find the confidence in themselves, you know, that warrior ethos, you know, the defining characteristic of a warrior is the willingness to close with the enemy, and that's the big thing about combatives is, you know, the same thing it takes to get into a fight and to fight someone is the same kind of stuff that it takes to engage the enemy on the battlefield.
You're in a firefight, you go black, you have no ammo left, you know, and the enemy's right there on you. You end up having hand-to-hand, or you're clearing rooms, you know, tight-knit quarters. Depending on your rules of engagement, you know, you're not able to fire your weapons, so you got your enemy combatant right there on you. You got to take him down hand-to-hand.
Because everybody has to be ready to fight. Everybody's a soldier first, regardless of MOS or duty position. Your first priority is a soldier, and you never know when you're going to need that.
When you take it down to the soldier level, they have to be confident that they can handle themselves. In all situations, we want them generally to step forward and say, I'm here to help.
Every soldier is going to be in a situation where they're going to be in or around an enemy or in enemy territory. Regardless of what your job is in Iraq or Afghanistan, you're in enemy territory. So you need to be prepared for that.
We've seen the practical combat applications of combatives. The program requires intense training, and soldiers stay motivated by fighting each other. Here's a look at how these techniques are practiced and tested in competition.
If you just give a guy a set of techniques, you know, and say, all right, this is combatives, but you never give him a reason to train it, he's never going to do it. It's just going to be these techniques, and they're just going to kind of go away. And that's kind of what's happened in the past with the combatives programs before, is there was no reason that the soldier, you know, he got a little bit in basic training, and then he never did it again, because there was nothing put in place for him to keep training. So now we give them guys a reason to train. You know, competition instills the warrior ethos. It allows them to be champions, and it builds the unit's esprit de corps and pride in their unit.
Competitions are gender neutral. But the physiology of males and females is different, so there has to be an allowance made to make it fair. And imagine that a female of a given body weight carries less muscle for her body mass than a man of the same body weight.
I did compete a couple weeks ago. It was my first competition, and I just only knew level 1 techniques. That was it. But I just went in there and did what I basically knew, and I did pretty good.
So what we do, and this is based on the PTFM, we give an allowance, a weight allowance for females, so that it's really a fight between a certain amount of muscle rather than for just aggregate body weight. But that's the goal, so that at the end of the day, a soldier's a soldier. It's still got that name tape and that U.S. Army, and that's what matters. Whenever you're going through the door, nobody's checking who's male and who's female. It's time to fight.
There you go.
Well, depending on the size of the person, I'm 6'7", and I've gone against people who are 5'4". If they have a lot of skill, they can dominate you. That's something that, I didn't know really before I started doing combatives. I thought, I'm huge, I can beat up a small person. But when that person's skilled, they can take you down very easily. So that told me, hey, you need to go learn this stuff so then you can be dominant. When I'm fighting a bigger person, they're slow like me, so that's good. But smaller people are faster, and it really depends on the skill the person has more than the size.
There's much more to come on Close Combat.
We're ringside for the flyweight finals at the Army Combatives Championship. I'm Van Stokes, here with Matt Larson, director of the Army Combatives Program. Matt, you were ringside at the annual Army Combatives Championship. Talk about the rules that are in effect.
Well, there'll be 3 5-minute rounds, Van, and it's very similar to mixed martial arts, but the rules are a bit more protective. They're not allowed to throw elbow strikes, and they can't spike each other onto their neck or head. Basically, our soldiers have to be ready to go to war tomorrow, so we got to be careful they don't get hurt.
And, of course, a referee in place to enforce those rules. Thanks, Matt. Let's meet the fighters in the first flyweight match. Jesse Thornton and Scott Eklevia competed for the bronze medal in this consolation fight. Here's what they had to say before the match.
I think having the fights has helped because of the training. We're very skilled and we're well trained, so we're ready to go.
I don't know my opponent. I'm just gonna do what I've been doing and just keep the pace, keep the aggression.
For the hood, we have the best team, we have the best training, and we're ready to go. We're gonna win this trophy.
I like to stand up a little, but if it doesn't work, I take them to the ground. But my strong area is the ground.
So 2 combatants, Matt, that seem to have a lot of confidence in themselves. Anything surprising about their strategy?
No, but, the Guam team has been a perennial favorite here. They're one of the toughest teams in the Army. They come back every year and have a good showing, so I think we'll see some good stuff out of this young guy.
Well, let's take a look. Let's get to the action. Underway in the first period, Jesse Thornton wears the red belt. Scott Eklevia wears the blue belt. And Thornton very, very quick in on the body of Eklevia. The lift and the slam. Matt, that's with force.
Wow, nice takedown. Put him right down on his shoulder.
But he lets him back up because he says mentally, I want some more of that action.
Yeah, I think maybe he'll want to take him down again.
Both combatants trying to land the knee, but unsuccessfully. And Thornton backs away.
You can see when their hips are apart like that, there's time to throw the knees. Now it looks like he might be trying to pick the leg up and get his own takedown. Very good hips from Thornton.
Eklevia from Guam, and he brought a number of fans with him.
Well, like I said, the Guam team is tough. They've got they tie into the Guamanian culture, and that's a National Guard team. And it seems like every tough guy in Guam wants to be in the Guard.
Well, a lot of good combatants from Guam. We've seen them in other sports as well.
I saw Thornton fight in the Fort Hood Championships. That Fort Hood team is really tough. You know, it's looking at this point like they may be the championship team. They were very neck and neck before the finals with the 1st Infantry Division at Fort Riley. But he was a killer in their championships. And I think we're going to see good stuff. Smooth transitions, always has the next technique ready.
He does. Whether you get in close on the upper body, he's there with the quick knee. Eclavia tries to return the favor and a quick uppercut.
You know, those knees, when you're bent over like that, you're susceptible to them. And the way to defend is to get your hips in close. But as soon as you do, now it's much easier to take you down. It's really a dance between those two things. Which is more dangerous, the strikes like that or whether the takedown?
Well, you see Thornton is extended with his hips way back right now, which makes it a little bit difficult for Eclavia to land a shot.
Well, his hips comes back, it actually opens him up for those knee strikes. It does make it harder to take him down, though.
Eclavia a bit on the attack right now as Thornton goes over to the ropes.
Nice knees.
And the intensity picks up just a little bit. Again, 3 judges. There's a 10-point must system for each round. In other words, the winner of each round will get 10 points. The loser will get 9, 8, 7, whatever, accordingly. And right now, as we move through the first stanza of this bronze medal match, who looks like they have the lead to you, Matt?
Well, it looks very even at this point. Thornton had that really slamming takedown at the beginning, which may be the difference, but they're exchanging knees and punches very evenly. It seems like Eclavia, as the aggressor, is pushing Thornton into the wall, but it's very difficult to say who's winning at this point.
And as soon as you say that, they turn right around. Thornton comes off the wall, and they're back out in the center of the ring. Have a stance like a couple of boxers right now. Don't expect it to last long, though.
The range in boxing is much closer because you can't kick each other. You can see when the guy could kick you in the head or knee you, it changes where you're fighting.
Eclavia tried to lead with his legs, but Thornton
great takedown.
Counters very, very nice and slams him.
It's like he timed that kick attempt perfectly.
Thornton on top right now.
Eclavia with the closed guard.
We go on to the final minute now of the first round in this bronze medal match. Back to their feet. The boxer's stance. The kick and the twirl. I mean, you see it all here, don't you?
Yeah, you'll see that's a modern Army Combatives draws from a bunch of different martial arts, and you can see some of the Muay Thai, the wrestling, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. All of those things are factors.
Boxing, I mean, you kind of roll it all together.
It's a good knee shot there. Yeah, that's right. It looks like we're close to the end of the round here. That noise, that banging noise, that signals 10 seconds out, so the fighters will know to go hard.
And that they do as they come down to the final seconds of the first round. Quick shot there by Thornton as he goes back to his corner right now. You take a good look at Jesse Thornton.
That man in the Stetson there is Chris Big Daddy Perkins, a coach of the Fort Hood team, one of the best coaches in the Army. And you can see representing Fort Hood with their cavalry Stetsons.
Hey, you got him now. He don't want none of that shit. You got the better of that.
And they're telling him that he's got the better of his opponent right now.
Hey, push all your air out. Push your air out. Push it all out. Make yourself get set. All right, let's go.
Working with him on his breathing techniques, telling him to push out the air.
You know, managing your fighters' adrenaline is a big part of being a good coach. How warmed up they are before the fight, how they calm down between the fights.
Here we go, the second round. Eklevia in the blue belt, Thornton the red belt, and the dark jersey right now. Again, the manly art of self-defense, or so it seems, as they close the space. Eklevia in with the kick, the wrap, and Thornton says, "You're going to your back."
Yeah, it can be dangerous throwing those body kicks. He got caught that time.
That takes its toll on you, does it not?
Yeah, it's just as good as any other sort of blow whenever you land them flat like that.
I mean, I don't want to say you heard the ring shake from where we're sitting, but almost.
You know, and that's just canvas and plywood with a really thin pad in between there, so it hurts.
Thornton keeping the contact very, very close right now.
There's a real skill in there to who can land punches and where your hands got to be and controlling the wrist. Looks like he's getting them back out the center of the ring.
And the referee has the authority to do that. If they get too close to the corner, the post becomes a problem.
Roger, he just wants to keep them from maybe getting underneath the ropes and whatnot, so why not start them back here? Of course, the time stops when they're doing those adjustments.
Thornton's objective right now, what do you see it as, Matt? Oh.
Well, Thornton's got two options. He can give damage from inside there, like that, or he can try to get past the legs. Now, it's very hard to finish somebody off without getting past the legs, but he's landed some pretty good shots.
He's in a good position to do that, though, is he not, as he tries to move towards the head of Eklevia. Eklevia slides towards the edge of the ring.
Maybe setting up for a triangle choke there. He's got one leg over. Working the choke a little bit.
And as you said, it's difficult to deliver those striking blows like that. Thornton tries that with his left hand.
And with one arm in his head like that, he's in real dangerous position. Now it looks like the arm lock's coming too. He's got him in a pretty solid arm lock there. Definitely in danger.
He picks him, lifts him, and then drops him slightly to the canvas.
Yeah, he spiked him to get out of that arm lock, and that's against our rules. It's important to remember that these soldiers are, look here, right on his head.
There you go. That's the spike to the head. That is against the rule. And take a look at the referee. He's there to enforce it quickly and disqualify Thornton.
That's right. It's important.
By DQ in the blue corner, Guam, Scott Eklevia.
Scott Eklevia awarded the victory that time over Jesse Thornton for spiking Thornton, which is illegal.
It's important to remember that these soldiers may be going to war tomorrow, so putting him on the back of his head like that, a little bit too dangerous.
Well, in war, things change quickly, and certainly things changed very quickly that time in favor of Eklevia.
That's right.
So, a good bout. Coming up later in the show, we'll be back with all the action from the gold medal fight in the flyweight class. Stick around for Close Combat.
Welcome back to Close Combat. Some of the fighting you'll see in this series is graphic and bloody. But believe it or not, serious injuries are rare in combatives. Ask most fighters, and they'll tell you their pride gets hurt more than anything else.
We're all soldiers here, so we're all looking to take care of each other. There's going to be injuries in fight training, but the injuries are very, they're minimal. You're going to have guys that bruise their feet or twist their ankle. The same kind of injuries that you might get from like running or whatever, or playing soccer.
Some injuries in this type of training, most of it is, getting your feelings hurt from getting punched in the face. We don't want to come out here and hurt soldiers. We want to train soldiers, We need live, realistic training, but we also need safe training.
Pressure, shoulder pressure.
We got, let's say we got a classroom with 30 guys out here, but, 20 guys will make it through the course because they're hurt. Well, that defeats the purpose.
combative school, we almost have nobody not graduate because they're injured. Because we have an experienced cadre who know where the risks lie and can mitigate them. And so we can train hard and realistic and yet safe, because it's all about maturity and having a grown-up, knowledge of what it means to train hard.
And what kind of injuries did you see?
We mainly saw musculoskeletal injuries such as shoulder, elbow, and knee injuries, and we saw one hand fracture.
This training is safer than a high school football team's trainer by a factor of 10 probably. It's safe, and it's hard and realistic. And you're going to get bruises when you're hitting each other, so don't expect it to be pain-free. But injury-free and pain-free are two entirely different things. And we can train with pain as a factor of training in the same way that it is on a long road march. That hurts. But hopefully it didn't injure you if it's done wisely. Same thing is true here.
Up next, we'll take a closer look at where the Army Combatives competition is held and the man behind the venue. Plus, we're ringside for the flyweight gold medal match. Stick around. Each year, the Army Combatives Tournament is held at the Paul R. Smith Gym, named for the 2005 Medal of Honor recipient. Sergeant First Class Smith was an engineer platoon sergeant assigned to Fort Benning, Georgia, home to the modern Army Combative School.
Paul R. Smith was an engineer platoon sergeant in 3rd Infantry Division. And during the battle for Baghdad at the airfield, his platoon was attacked by a superior force of Iraqi insurgents.
I ran back to the area where Sergeant Smith was, and he was firing his 50 cal, so I yelled to him to come out of there. But there was a large force out there, and he wasn't about to leave this position. He kind of gave me a cutthroat that he's not going to come down.
Every time it was more linked, he just told me to get back down the driver's hatch and keep my head down. You could hear rounds tinking off the front of the track and stuff. And that's when he took the shot.
I seen the enemy force out there, and there's no doubt in my mind if he hadn't stayed on that 50 cal, they would have came through our position.
And as they fought to hold that piece of ground, they received withering fire. He moved up in unprotected into M113 and manned the machine gun and saved the lives of his soldiers as he fought and repelled the enemy attack.
And in retrospect, sitting back thinking about when he left, I think he knew that he would meet his destiny in Iraq.
To have the best gymnasium facility that I've ever seen named for a non-commissioned officer who gave his life for his country and for his own, right down to the essence, his own men, and a recipient of the Congressional Medal of Honor. It's the right thing, and he was a warrior, and to have the Combatives Tournament here also shows our young men and women that they're a part of something bigger than just themselves also, as was Paul R. Smith.
Up next, the championship fight in the flyweight class, coming up on Close Combat.
I'm Van Stokes, back with Matt Larson. Now for the final fight in the flyweight class. Let's meet our competitors. Eric Cabell-Garibay and Francisco Frankie Mercado competed for the gold medal and the championship title. Here's what they had to say heading into the fight.
Just go in there, throw some hands, and go for a takedown, and then just try and work passing his guard and ground and pound from there.
I don't know my opponent, but I'm just gonna keep doing what I've been training. Try to punch. I'm bigger than them right now, so if not, then take the ground. But other than that, just keep going with the strategy I came here with.
Going with the strategy that you came here with. Good strategy, would you say, Matt?
Well, each of these teams has got pretty good coaches. And you'll see that what you see in the arena is a product of the Combatives program itself and the peculiarities of their individual coach.
So there really is a tendency to fight as you have trained.
That's exactly right.
Well, let's get to the action. The squared circle, the boxing ring, here in Fort Benning, Georgia. And again, Cabell Garibay with the red belt. Francisco Mercado with the blue. Tries to go down low. Cabell Garibay flailing a little bit. But Mercado wants to take him down to the mat, put him on his back.
Mercado really wanted that takedown. You know, Muay Thai, they have a saying, if you want the clinch badly, you'll get it. It's not necessarily a good thing.
Now, illegal maneuvers. Of course, we've talked about the spike or pile driving your opponent head first into the mat.
Yeah,
cannot hit with your elbows, cannot headbutt.
Yeah, you can't spike them onto the back of their neck. It's because it's dangerous. The elbows are because we don't want cuts, so that's all elbow strikes really do is give you cuts. And headbutts are the same thing. You take a headbutt to the forehead or the cheek, it's really just going to lay open a cut, make the fight bloody, somebody gets stitches, but not a devastating technique except that. So you're really just asking for doctor stoppages if you allow those. It's also important to remember that these guys could be going to war tomorrow, so we have to be fairly protective of them.
Right now, some blood is permitted, correct?
Yeah, we don't stop it for bleeding. We'll stop it if it's bleeding into their eyes or it looks like it's going to be dangerous. And that's really a doctor's call. There's a doctor ringside to make sure it's all safe.
That's good. That's good.
You can see in here, it's fairly sophisticated what they're doing with their arms, where they want them to be. Each one of them jockeying for position, whether they can set up a submission attempt or land some blows.
Now, Mercado from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. They have a large number of soldiers there. You would think that they would come forward with a very strong team.
It's true, and it's, they're posts around the Army. Each of these soldiers have had to be a champion from someplace else just to qualify for this tournament. So there were almost 500 competitors, so that means almost 500 people were first or second place from posts around the Army.
So this is really the culmination, if you will, of training that began back at installations around the world.
That's right. So soldiers began learning how to fight in basic training. On the third day of basic training, when they get their rifles issued to them, they start learning how to fight to keep control of their rifle. And it continues from there at every institution we have.
So when this competition started, the first day of the 3-day competition, how many contestants? Upwards of 400 for sure.
Yeah, there were nearly 500 competitors. This was the biggest year. It was 30% roughly bigger than last year as well. And each year since we've been having these competitions, as the training spreads throughout the Army and more soldiers get to this level, the competition grows. Imagine, like I was saying, each of these people have to be a champion where they're at. Well, Fort Bragg probably has 30,000 soldiers, so the people represented here were the champion of those 30,000 just to get to this tournament.
So it really is noteworthy to even be able to mount this platform and participate. Well, here we are right now in this gold medal match for the flyweight division. In on the legs goes Mercado, but he gets out quickly. Now flyweight, Matt, tell me, that's up to what weight?
This is up to 125. And men and women fight against each other in our tournaments, so the women are allowed a percentage overage to make it fair. Imagine if it's a 125-pound class and a woman gets 9% over, well, she could really weigh, 136, 137, somewhere in there, so that you end up fighting on your approximate body mass, not just your weight.
So, Matt, has a woman ever made the finals?
Well, they've made the finals at other places, and this tournament was the first time that a woman has gotten to the semifinals at the Army Championships. And in fact, it was a good fight because her opponent was definitely worried about her the whole fight. And she was more skillful. And each year we're experimenting with how much weight to give them. So I think probably next year we'll give them 11% till we find that mix where men and women can compete equally.
Again, trading blows. Cabell Garibay trying to glance some body blows off of Mercado. Mercado in the blue belt. Cabell Garibay in the red belt on the bottom right now. Now, the idea, of course, is to inflict as much damage as you can on your opponent as we get down to the final seconds of this, the first period. And they finish with Mercado in the top position. So both combatants will go back to their corners for some advice. Now,
well, Mercado was on top, but I don't think he gave him a lot of damage. A pretty even fight at this point. You can see that's Greg Nelson, his coach of the Minnesota National Guard team, one of the top coaches in the world, and has been a contributor to the Combatives program since almost the beginning. A lot of our Muay Thai techniques come from him.
Let's see if we can listen to what he says.
Right? If you shoot strong, set the PT before you fall back, okay? Otherwise spin to his back. Pure wrestling attention, okay? You do awesome. Right? You're doing phenomenal out there. Okay, so I want you to think about breathing in. Right?
It's mostly telling him there when he sprawls to avoid the takedown, don't assume the bottom position. It's a common thing when people who've done a little too much Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training to think that the bottom is all right, but in a real fight and on the battlefield, the bottom is not necessarily where you want to be.
So again, Cabell Garibay in the red, Francisco Mercado, Fort Bragg in the blue. A little stick and move maneuver there.
And Mercado's coming in with that shot combined with an overhand punch. It's been very effective for a lot of fighters over the years. You can choose between defending the punch or defending the takedown. Very hard to do both.
And Cabell Garibay finds himself in a similar position here in round two as he spent most of the first period, on his back.
Well, it's clear that Mercado is the better wrestler, and he's able to take him down. Now if he can capitalize on that, we'll see. You know, Cabell Garibay has got a solid defensive position here, and he's stopping him from doing any real damage.
Now, you're always looking for dominance, but again, this is a case of control. Not necessarily dominance, but plain and simply controlling the tempo, the pace, and the direction of this particular bout.
And ground grappling, it's a body position game. So you can see, even though he's on the bottom there, Cabell Garibay has got his hips in the front, which means he can use his hips to attack the arms, attack the neck. He's really got the more leverage. Mercado has got gravity working on his side, and he is the aggressor, but it could turn around on him at any moment.
You know, I want to close the thought that we were talking back in the first period about with women in combat. And the reason that we see women in this competition competing against men is that in a war scenario, you don't call a timeout and separate the women from the men. You have to take on whoever happens to be your opponent and your combatant in front of you.
That's right. At the end of the day, this competition is not a sport. It's training. It's training for the battlefield. And you know, what are the odds that, you know, just because you're a female means you're going to end up fighting another female on the battlefield? In our estimation, the soldier is a soldier. And so they have to be, everyone has to fight equally. Now, to make it fair, just like we have weight classes, female body mass is different. They carry their mass different. So we are adjusting the weight scales to make it fair. But at some point, you figure out where everyone can compete.
Francisco Mercado in the top position right now over Eric Cabell Garibay.
You know, talk about females. One of the very first graduates of our level 3, female graduates of our level 3 instructor program was a lady named Christine Van Fleet. She was a lieutenant. And she choked out the starting quarterback from West Point in 30 seconds from their feet. You know, because she knew what to do and he didn't. And so that's really the key. It's a game of knowledge and athleticism together.
Well, the starting quarterback at West Point probably thought he had seen it all on the gridiron.
I think he was pretty surprised that he got beat by a 140-pound female.
And I'm going to tell you the way I look at this. I don't look at that gender. I just say, look, you got beat by a better competitor, period.
Exactly right. She knew what to do. He didn't.
So midway through the second stanza here, in this gold medal match of the flyweight division.
Mercado's having a hard time getting past the guard. He's really not trying to very much. Wouldn't be too surprised if the referee stands him up before too long.
Simply because there's not a lot of action going on, and as you said, he cannot get through the guard.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It looks like he is standing him up. You know, at the end of the day, when you take somebody down, if you don't do something with the takedown, it's kind of pointless, unless your intention was just to stall.
All right, here we go. Back in the standing position. Boxing stances. Kickboxing. Down in on the legs.
Good sprawl there.
A nice sprawl, as you said.
Of course, his coach told him in the ring not to just go back into the guard after the sprawl, which is exactly what he did. He's holding on to the neck there, but he doesn't really have a choke because the choke is dependent upon where the legs are. And you can see he's giving it up now.
Mercado again in a very much of a controlling position from the top. But you know, your coach will tell you one thing, but your whole fight plan kind of goes out the window as soon as your opponent comes at you and attacks you, does it not?
Well, that's true. You know, the enemy gets a vote. So my old coach used to tell me, everybody's got a great plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah, you have to be able to adapt. I like the phrase move, shoot, and communicate. Move, shoot, adjust, and communicate.
That's right.
And then you do it again. We get down to the final 30 seconds of this second period.
Working an arm lock there. This is defending well.
And a lot of energy being exerted right now.
It's true. It's very tiring. Of course, these soldiers are in supremely good shape. Imagine over the course of the last 2 days, these men have probably had 6 or 7 grappling matches and a couple of intermediate rules matches where they were striking, and now this. So.
And the 4 pounds to the mat indicates 10 seconds left to go in the period. You hear the bell, and the second period comes to a conclusion. And Mercado spent a majority of the second period in the top position.
Yeah, I think if I was a judge now, I'd probably be giving those first 2 rounds to Mercado. That's Greg Thompson there, his coach, coach of the Fort Bragg team, one of the top guys in the program. Trains the Special Forces units there at Fort Bragg.
Yeah, you said 30,000, but it's considerably more than that at Fort Bragg.
Yeah, there's quite a few. And you know, the Fort Hood team, they're feeding from almost 40,000. So some of these guys, they've had to do a lot of fighting to get into this tournament.
Fort Bragg, home of the 82nd Airborne Division, as well as good contingent of Special Forces. Very combat-ready installation, if you will.
The other one of his coaches there is a former champion as well, Sergeant Tomko. Pretty solid fighter. All of these soldiers with several trips to the war zone.
Yeah, and so this is really, I mean, this is, well, they're just going to come right out and tell you, this is not as tough as being in the war zone.
Yeah, this is geared towards it. You know, people ask all the time, is it a real fight? I say, well, in a real fight, the guy might have a knife on his belt, or his buddy shows up with a pistol, or somebody gets their nose bitten off. You know, none of that's going to happen today because this isn't a real fight. Now, they're fighting as hard as they can, but within the rules and, you know, geared towards doing their best in this athletic competition.
So there is a bit of safety involved in this competition.
Yeah, it's much safer than people think. I mean, it looks pretty dangerous, but in all the years we've been doing this, the worst injury in the finals ever was a broken hand, and it actually came from landing on his hand, not from punching. So the rules are very, very safe.
You know, continuing the part about fighting, I used to have a coach say fighting is what they do in the parking lot. Competing is what they do in the ring. And this is competition with some of the elements of fighting, period.
Well, it's important to understand the difference here. You know, in every other sport, be it NASCAR or the NBA, when they change the rules, they change them so that they can make it a little safer for the competitors or so they can make it more exciting for the crowd. And, you know, as exciting as this is, that has nothing to do with these rules. These rules are about making people do the right thing that's going to keep them alive in a real life and death fight.
Well, speaking of the crowd, this is a very appreciative crowd here at Fort Benning.
Yeah, most of the crowd is actually the competitors from the previous days, so it's mostly soldiers as well. You know, every soldier starts to learn how to fight in basic training, so it's a very knowledgeable crowd. They all know just what's going on.
Only really a couple of handfuls make it to the championship bouts or to the medal matches, so to speak. But the facility, the stands are filled with all of those competitors that did not make it into the ring for a medal match.
And you know, more than that, you know, we have 8 weight classes, so there are 16 people vying for the top slots, but there are 1.2 million people in the Army, 1.2 million soldiers. So these are the top 16 competitors out of 1.2 million, all of whom are required to train by the regulations.
And if they happen to be watching right now here on the Pentagon Channel, there is an opportunity wherever they might be stationed to get involved if they're not already involved right now.
Yeah, competitions happen at every post in the Army and every unit in the Army.
Well, Mercado right now very much has the upper body lock. Cabell Garibay unable to do much of a damage. He's landing some body blows, if you will, but they're more of a defensive position than anything else.
Well, this position on the bottom with one leg wrapped up like that is called the half guard. And you can see he's trying to get both legs wrapped around, but Mercado is doing a good job of stopping him. He's trying to advance that leg, and every time they start throwing punches, you know, there's very little damage being done from those punches, but they're both to try to advance their position. You can see him pinning that arm down there. If he can get it pinned down, he'd be able to rain blows down on his face.
He just about had that arm trapped underneath, and if he'd have been able to rain those blows in on the head,
he's working on it.
This thing would come to a close.
You can see how he's hooked his toes there. He's going to try to use that leg to open the other one so he can advance his leg. And it looks like full guard now.
So Cabell Garibay doing all he can do.
I think the ref's standing him back up.
Yes, he is. He is. He basically is saying in so many words, we're going nowhere fast here on the mat, so let's bring it back to the feet. And stamina becomes a factor, does it not?
It does. That referee is Chris Gordon. He's a former champion, works at the combative school now at Fort Benning. Very, very skillful, knowledgeable fighter and trainer himself.
We are under 1 minute now in this, the final round of this 3-round match. Flyweight Championship.
Looks like we're back in the same position. Mercado able to take down at will almost. Not able to do much after he's done so.
Mercado has really been in the driver's seat for most of this bout, would you say, Matt?
I would. If I was scoring this match, I would have given the first 2 rounds to him, but only 10-9 because it was, you know, he was better, but not really doing a lot of damage, not dominating completely. You know, just being on top is worth something, but it's not worth as much as being on the top if you were, you know, hammering blows or whatnot.
Again, 3 judges. There's our bang to the mat, indicating less than 10 seconds remaining. Mercado very much in control. And there's your bell. There's your bell that brings this flyweight gold medal match to a close, and the crowd appreciative in their applause.
It's going to go to the judges now, and I would suspect that we all know who the winner is, that Mercado would have pulled it out. He was on top most of the fight, got those takedowns, didn't do a lot with it, wasn't really, you know, dominant, but nonetheless probably eked out a victory.
Little mouse under the right eye of Eric Cabell Garibay.
Give it some, get some good advice there from Greg Nelson, his coach.
And Francisco Mercado looking on, awaiting for the scorecards to be tabulated.
Looks like we have a decision coming up.
And you will hear an appreciative applause. This one went the distance.
The winner by split decision, from the blue corner, Fort Bragg, Francisco Mercado.
Well, there's your winner in the flyweight division, Francisco Mercado. And Matt, this competition just gets bigger every year.
Well, that's right, Van. Now, each year that we've had this competition, it's gotten bigger. This year was 30% bigger than last year, and it's going to continue. Not only is it getting bigger, but the skill level is really getting high.
So it grows not only in quantity, but in quality as well.
That's right.
Thanks, Matt. And congratulations to Francisco Mercado of Fort Bragg, North Carolina in the flyweight division. For Matt Larson and myself, this is Close Combat.
Here we go!